afternoon. I'm excited to be able to come here at City Hall, ready for work. I'm honored and very grateful to have this opportunity to do so. You asked, what's first? Well, I am going to meet with top city staff and the city manager. I will be getting a briefing. But before that, I'm meeting with the deputy mayor to ensure there's a smooth transition, to learn from her, to hear about what's facing the city from her perspective, and of course, maybe pick up a bag so I can get inside.
Mayor Chow, are you going to be meeting with councillors soon? Because you're going to have to convince a lot of them to go along with you on things they might at the moment not want to do.
Yes, I absolutely am looking forward to the opportunity to meet with different councillors and meet with all the top staff, and I want to start early because there are a lot that needs to be done. Traditionally, a mayor just getting elected normally take 5 to 6 weeks to come in and do the inauguration. I didn't want to wait so long. I'm making it 2 weeks, so the inauguration will be on July 12th, and I want to get started immediately to make life more affordable for wonderful people of Toronto.
You mentioned the deputy mayor.
You talk about meeting with department heads. As a strong mayor, you have the power to fire and hire department heads. Is there going to be a shakeup?
I'm here to learn from the department head and to find out from them, from their perspective, what are their goals, what kind of targets they're setting for the city, what would they like to accomplish in the short term and long term, and what their expectation is, the kind of leadership they want from the mayor's office. So I want to listen first, and then also listen to the councillors. My priority has been very clear. I talked about making life more affordable and caring City Hall. A City Hall that's more caring and a safe city. And I also want to open up City Hall and invite different, whether you are business, big, small, or labor, or residents groups, or non-profit, civil society, and also former candidates. I want us to work together. So one of my first tasks is to listen and to learn, and then look for ways we could work together to achieve our common goals.
Have you any thoughts about who your deputy mayor will be?
Operation. John Tory came in with a group of councillors. You don't necessarily have that. You'll have to talk to people. I'm saying you're going to talk and listen, but will there be enough people to help push forward your agenda? Or do you already have to start thinking about what water might want? What do you think?
Water into wine. I'm not sure that tastes very good. But well, I did that last night because I didn't want to drink too much white wine. But I think it's important that we work together. All through my political career, which is 30 years, I've always worked together. And I believe every city councillor and all the candidates really have a very clear goal. The goal is to build more housing, more affordable housing. If that's the goal, let's look at how we could, what kind of approaches we can take. And there, I am sure they'll be coming around. And I know that there are some councillors that I might not know very well, but quite a few of them I've worked with before, that I've known before they were even councillors. Okay? And some of them are former assistants to councillors too. So I've worked with them before, and I would love to connect and find out from them directly what are their priorities, what are they experienced so far, what kind of expectation they have from the mayor's office, and let's come together and make sure council work for everyone. And would I, yeah.
Doug Ford has gone from calling you and mitigating disasters, saying he can work with you. You had nice words for the premier last night.
I can absolutely work with Premier Dunford. We love this city, as you can tell. And if that is the goal, that we want to build more housing, because we've been talking about that. We know that Toronto is going to be welcoming a lot of immigrants coming to this city. And we want to make sure that there's a place for them to stay, not on the ground, not in parks. We want to make sure that their life is be as affordable and as livable as possible in the city. So there will be common ground. I look forward to working with Mr. Ford, Premier Ford, and his cabinet ministers, because last night, Minister of Housing and Minister of Affairs and I, Steve Clark and I, also have a conversation, and we said we look forward to dealing with the whole issue of housing.
Olivia, have you given any thought to who you want your deputy mayor to be, and what kind of role you want that person to play in your administration?
Oh gosh, not on the first day.
You have said on the first day you'd like to get some housing projects, specifically the ones proposed by nonprofits, that seem to be kind of stuck in City Hall. You want to get them moved. Can you elaborate on that? What's the problem, and what are you going to do?
I do not know what is the problem. That's why I'm here to learn about what is the problem. Yes, it's been stuck for a couple of years, and there may be good reasons. I hope not. I will be working with the staff very closely to say, hey, my priority is get the shovel in the ground now. Let's do it. And so let's get that done. And I'm a firm believer that if you set goals, set targets, an action plan, I need to achieve this number of housing being built. That percentage of it needs to be affordable. If you set the target and be very clear by when. And let's look at then what is the action required to get to that stage. And then after we get that, let's then review what is the best practices, what can we do to make it faster, make it better, make sure that it is successful, and then we set another year of goals and timetable. If you don't have that kind of clear action plan, then things can slip through the cracks. Just look at Cafe TO, for example. Something very small. Yeah, just something so small that if we can't just get that done, then there's a problem. She just asked the question that you asked in Chinese. In Cantonese, I'll answer. What's the first thing I'm going to do? 我第一件事就係同我哋個副處長而家係開會，同埋咧就係最高層嘅工作人員。咁我哋睇下點樣可以快啲起多啲樓，尤其是係可以承擔得起嘅樓。
You talked about not having strong mayor power, but what about the weeks and months you're finding that what you wanted to get done is not getting passed?
Oh, I am sure that if you go to ask any of the councillors that do you wish to see housing built now? They would say yes. Would you like the ATO program to be successful? Yes. Would you like to see the community centers and parks serve people better? They would say yes. Well, how do we improve the service of City Hall? What can the mayor's office do to support that goal? And once we set that, then we'll move forward together. I am convinced that that is the goal of all the councils.
But Olivia, there are many other things that are not as popular. You talked about tearing down the eastern portion of the Gardiner. Would you use the strong mayor powers to influence them, or how soon would you like to see, have those meetings with the city to start talking with the Gardiner?
Well, the Gardiner is coming down anyway, whether I'm the mayor or not. You're talking about less than 1 kilometer off the Gardiner. Since it's coming down, it's going to be on the ground. Do you rebuild it and do it as a leveled up and block the waterfront? Is that a priority, and spend $500 million doing it? Do we not want to save some money to make sure some of the money can be used in fixing TDC, fixing potholes, any number of things? And also not just saving money, the 8,000 units of housing that could be built in that land. Is that not a priority? So that's a rebuilding the top proportion of less than a kilometer of Gardiner. It's not going to be built until 2026 anyway. So there will be time for us to get into that conversation, and when we get there, we will solve that problem when we.
Last question.
Olivia, you promised that you're going to expand services. Given the fact that the city has $1 billion deficit, how is that possible to expand services?
Well, as you know, I have talked about other source of revenue, whether it's convention tax, which is impact on the 2% of the home buyers. If their house they buy is very expensive, then they pay a bit more when they buy a new home. That's like 2% of 100% of people buying new homes. It's not the top tier for the a lot of money. And the second piece is the vacancy tax, and the land speculators want to come and buy off the building, evict everybody, leave it empty. You know what? They should pay a bit more on the vacancy tax. That would generate $43 million, about 1% from taxes. We don't really have to get to that place until next year in terms of talking about what kind of taxes we have. The budget deficit that is in front of City Hall is in City Council is very serious. It's the Tory in the former mayor left the city with 7% tax increase and still $1.5 billion of deficit. How am I going to deal with it? I will have to talk to the senior staff, talk to other councillors, and see if we could persuade the federal and the provincial government to partner with us. Because at the end of the day, a healthy and livable city of Toronto means a strong Canada, and a strong Ontario. So we'll figure that piece out. But do remember that $1.5 billion is where that deficit came from the previous administration. On top of it, that 7% tax increase that just been applied in the last 2 or 3 months did not come from Olivia Chow. Just becoming a mayor. It's been the previous administration.
Olivia, are you thinking twice about your promise not to use strong mayor powers?
I believe in democracy. The place where my mom and dad came from, Hong Kong, there are democracy warriors, or whether they're former legislators, lawyers, priests, are all in jail because they want the right to vote for who they want, and democracy, which is 50% plus one. So I do not want to violate the principle of democracy, and because that is pretty sacred.
Olivia, you weren't born in Canada, Anna Bylaw wasn't born in Canada, Mark Saunders wasn't born in Canada. The top three candidates yesterday, all immigrants. What do you think that says about Toronto? Also a very diverse group of candidates. What do you think that's happening?
I think the signal is the city government wants to have a government that represents and reflects the population it's serving. It's important to reflect who we are representing. It's also saying to every Torontonians, doesn't matter where you came from, what is your skin color, faith, doesn't matter who you are, if you have the passion and ideas to contribute to the city, please, the door's open. Come. You have that power to do so. And that's a Toronto dream. It's the hope that every immigrant or every resident, no matter where you're from, you could be don't know how many generations of people from Ireland in the turn of century. This city welcomed, it's called City of York, welcomed 50,000 Irish immigrants, well, refugees, into this place when we only had 30,000 residents here in the City of York at the turn of century. And look at the Toronto it is now. So Toronto's been built by successive waves of refugees and immigrants to this country. After saying that, Indigenous people have been here for a long, long time, way before any of them arrived. We need to work harder in the reconciliation and share power with them. So that's one thing I would also want.
Olivia, you spent the better
Sorry
part...
about a longer answer, but I can't help it.
Olivia, you've spent the better part of the last decade training the next generation of organizers through the Institute for Change leaders. So campaigns are all about organizing. Being as specific as you can you reflect on how this new generation of leaders that you trained helped you secure you the win through organizing?
I'm not sure they win. The win is about just the people I train. What is organizing is bringing people together, building strong relationship with each other. Look at what we have in common. And that strong relationship is really what power is all about. And once you have that, whether you want a crossing guard and in your neighborhood so the kids are safer with a crosswalk, or whether you want a traffic light, or you want TUC buses to come more often. All of that is about organizing your neighbors, your communities, to make sure that City Hall hear from you. Peace Park or the federal government. So I want to give that kind of power to people in Toronto so that they can feel, hey, City Hall is now open. We do have a say, not just election period. It's all about solving problems together. So that's what we're organizing.
Do you see yourself as an organizer on council, trying to get votes, or do you see that you have a bigger stick because you were elected as mayor?
It's, well, power comes from ways. Yes, as a mayor, I do have some say, and I do have an office and staff, but I also see myself as their colleagues, and so we will work together that way. Thank you. En français? My French is not very good, even though I understand some.
One last question. Sure. You promised that you're going to block the transfer of city lands for Ontario Place.
Ontario Place. Okay. Ontario Place, that's where I bring my grandkids to skip walks, watch sunsets, and I would love to keep it public. And yes, the city have a series of land and some in the water also belongs to the city, and that whole matter has been deferred away. We're keeping it, and we'll talk to Premier Ford and Infrastructure Ontario to see what will be the future. I certainly believe that Ontario Place should be kept public and have a beautiful park where people can come and enjoy the waterfront. Thank you so much. I'm going to go in and meet with Deputy Mayor.